Welcome to Smalltalk Daily for Thursday, June 3rd, 2010. This morning we're going to go through a few things with the inspector that you may not know you can do. To get started, let's just take a simple thing like this ordered collection, and we'll inspect it. And it's just a little collection with three variables in it, 1, 2, and 3, so we have the positional arguments there. What we can do with this is kind of interesting. We can take this first one and drag it, push it down here, and now you notice that the 1 is in the third slot and 2 is in the first, so we were able to change things around. I can undo that by putting the 3 back and doing this. So you can drag and drop things within an inspector, something that's kind of interesting. You're basically just changing the position of things. Similar thing, let's go ahead and inspect a copy of the transcript so that we're not messing around with the real one. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the value here, which is the text for this. Well, I have this inspector already open. I have this inspector here. What we're going to do is drag this over. Let's make a little room so you can see this. And I'm going to drag this over and drop it here. So I've added this to the inspector. So what I've got is I've just added an element to my ordered collection. So instead of having 3 elements in it, I now have 4. So there's my 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1 because I dragged that one down. And then now I have 4, which is this 4th element, which is the copy of the transcript I had lying around. So let's leave that be for a moment. Close this inspector. Another interesting thing you can do is you can kind of go in the opposite direction. Let's say I wanted to take this element and drop it on the workspace. Notice the little plus sign for the inspector down here. So we do that. Now it's going to ask me, assign the dropped object to some workspace variable. So I'll say sum var, hit OK. Now if I come down here and look at the variables tab, you see I added it and it's in there. So I can take things from inspector and throw them over. The nice thing about this is that you might be working with an application and you might want to experiment with something without mucking with the running application. So you want to take some data out of it. Well, you could throw it at a workspace and not have to declare a bunch of global variables, which is what you might think you had to do. Instead, you can just drag them out of the inspector, drop them on a workspace, and now you have them in there. And then you could write some scripting code to screw around with them. One more thing. Let's move this inspector down here for a minute. Show you this class that I defined. So I have my class has 3 instance variables. I went ahead and initialized them so they have values you can see. So let's go ahead and create an instance of it. We'll come over here to this page. We'll go to my class new, do an inspect, and here I have my 3 variables in there. I can select this one, say val3, pull this up, and notice I have this option to remove. If I do that, I'm not just removing something from this inspector. If I do this, I blow that away. Let's go back over to this and just go ahead and go to the definition. Notice I blew it away, which has the effect of doing interesting things to my code. My initialize code now, if I go back to the source, is trying to initialize this. Notice how it's red. It's because I blew away the variable. So that's an interesting thing. It's something you need to be aware of and careful about. Another thing that's interesting, I can come in here to my old inspector that I had up here, and let's say that I wanted val2 to be holding whatever's here. So I'm going to go ahead and push this over so I have room. I'm going to drag this over here. And now I'm going to drop it on val2. And notice the val2 is no longer pointing at whatever it was pointing at before. It's now pointing at this copy of the transcript. So when you have multiple inspectors open, you can drag values between them, reassign values to instance variables, take things out of inspectors, drop them on a workspace so that you can script and experiment with them. The inspector is a very open-ended, experimental prototyping development tool. It's a lot more than just a way to look at code. And also keep in mind you've got the method tab here. You can go ahead and browse. So it's a nice thing to just as a sort of Swiss Army knife tool that you can go in and screw around with a lot of different things. So that's about it for today. Until next time, have fun with Smalltalk.